There we go. We are live now, and we have a very special announcement for you. We broke a record today. We have 180 people waiting. We're going to have more coming in, and this is a very special stream because we have a very special announcement for you. Now, this will be a little bit different than our normal streams. We are going to first play a presentation video for you. After that presentation video, we're going to play a super badass marketing video. And then after that, we're going to go into Q&A. And we have the team behind this product in the Q&A ready for you. So start asking your questions as we are going through this presentation. We're going to add them to a doc. And during the Q&A time, we will bring up those questions live. So that's it. Let's now get into this presentation. Welcome to a big announcement from Finsweet. There has been an acquisition in the Webflow ecosystem. Finsweet has acquired Wized. 1 year ago, Jonas, the creator of Wized, came to Mexico to meet some of the Finsweet team in person. 1 week later, we had a signed agreement making Wized a Finsweet product. And for the past 12 months, Jonas and his team at Finsweet entirely reimagined Wized. Everything is new, rebuilt, and stronger with Finsweet. This talk covers 4 topics. 1, what is Wized? 2, why Finsweet acquired Wized. 3, a Wiz v2 overview. And 4, Intelligence Center. First, let's start with what is Wized. Wized is the brain that communicates between Webflow and our other applications. There are competing platforms that do the same technical computations that Wized does. What makes Wized unique is how it integrates with Webflow. Wized is built for use with Webflow, and this is what other platforms fail to excel in. Let's look at this graphic to understand what Wized does behind the dashboard. Wized is going to serve as that brain of our web application. So we can have Wized serve as a data center, a logic composer, a security lock, a data communication tool, all between our applications and Webflow. So let's look at this example here. If we want to identify a record in Airtable, see what its status is set to, and then based on that status, show information from Notion on our Webflow site, we can use Wized for that. Let's do another one. If we want to load our greenhouse job list and then show user job details and then allow that user to apply to the job from our Webflow site, well, we can use Wized for that too. Now, there are other applications that help us connect data between other applications. Other tools can help you communicate with APIs without code and send data to and from applications. And this is how we look at a lot of those other applications available to us. Other applications treat Webflow as another integration in their list of integrations. And this is how platforms approach that communication with Webflow. What makes Wized unique and powerful is that it does not follow this approach. Wized has Webflow as the core of its integrations. Webflow is the base that we must always build in. We want to. Webflow is always the front end of a Wized project. Most other applications send data between apps and then use Webflow CMS as a source for integrating with Webflow. And Wized does not do that. It doesn't communicate with Webflow CMS. Wized instead builds a web application layer on top of our Webflow website. Wized communicates with Webflow's front end. Send data in, send data out. make user actions trigger events, and on top of that, authenticate users, all on the front end of any Webflow project. Wized can send requests to our applications and ask for data, and then we can bring that data back into Wized and format it, and then create some logic of why or when to use that data. And once we have our application data ready for use, we can then display that visually on our Webflow website. When users take actions on our website, Wized can then perform those actions in the background. We can send data back out to those applications. We can update content on the page or any chain of events to create the web app functionality that we want. We can totally customize it. This is a new way to communicate between Webflow and our other applications. While communicating, we can authenticate users. We can choose which content an authenticated user sees, like gated content. We can display individual user content, like someone's account details. And Wized groups all of these functionalities into one single UI. The Wized configurator gives us a controller to our web application, which, as we know, sits on top of a Webflow project. Integration with elements in Webflow is too easy. We use Finsweet's trusted and powerful attribute strategy. Simply apply WL to any element in Webflow, give it a unique value, and that will be sent to Wized. One custom attribute sends elements from our Webflow project to our Wized configurator. The requests, the data, the authentication, this is an overview of what you can do with Wized. Next, we'll go into story time and talk about why Finsweet acquired Wized. After that, we'll look at the UI of Wized v2. And last, we'll talk about the resources and education that comes with Wized. Why Finsweet acquired Wized? We have always had a vision of Finsweet as a product leader in the Webflow ecosystem. We want to integrate as deeply as possible into Webflow and help people build more. Jonas had a vision to create a no-code application that mirrored the power of a front-end development framework in Webflow. And Jonas spent 1 year developing that working V1. It was released in 2019 as Platform Wizards. In 2021, it was renamed Wized. And since its launch in 2019, it has acquired and maintained a paying user base. Jonas had offers from well-known US VC firms. He considered taking VC funding to continue building Wized full-time. Ultimately, he did not take the money because each investor wanted one thing, the same thing: no dependency on Webflow. The product would not be built for Webflow. Wized would be built for many website building applications, and Webflow would be another option in the available integrations. Understandably, a VC would not want a heavy dependency on another product. Wized will now inherit any successes and failures from Webflow. This can be seen as high risk for an investor because investors want this. Webflow is one app across many different app integrations. Jonas wanted Wized to build web apps for Webflow. He believed Webflow was the right choice, and Jonas wanted this. Finsweet wants this too, and Finsweet has made it very clear for years that Webflow is the answer. We believe this 100%. And Jonas and Finsweet, both of us, we realized that we wanted the same thing. After our first call, I knew he did not want to follow that VC vision. So Jonas proposed that Finsweet purchase Wized and partner on a shared vision moving forward. We came to an agreement very quickly and seemed to agree on everything. Jonas would join Finsweet and continue the development of Wized. Finsweet would acquire Wized and create a team around that product. We agreed on these terms, we met in person in Mexico, and we moved forward. It was a true win-win for both of us. Jonas was rewarded for his hard work and dedication to Wized over the last 2 years. Jonas is instantly surrounded by a hand-picked team to continue the product development. And now Jonas can focus on the product, on Wized, not being a CEO of a SaaS company. And Finsweet gets an excellent product developer in Jonas that has a passion for building this product. And Finsweet gets a proof of concept MVP. It is already proven that this is a valuable product in the Webflow community. We've heard it. This leads to our V2. For the past year, a select team at Finsweet has been working on a redefined vision for Wized. New UI categories, new user flows, and new features. Everything is redefined and rebuilt in Wized V2. Instead of one person building a product, now we have a team of people thinking together. And this team has a shared vision of Webflow being the continued leader in visual web design. And this team has reimagined what building web apps can look like. And that's the story of why Finsweet acquired Wized. Now let's get into the new Wized V2 configurator. Wized V2 overview. Wized V2 is completely rebuilt with improvements across every functionality. We have restructured how to approach the Wized configurator tool. Primary UI categories are now reorganized specifically for non-technical people. Let's now look at these categories. We have My Apps. We can add any Wized native integration very quickly with Make, Airtable, Firebase, Xano, Notion, and many more. We can add any REST API, so any application with a REST API can be integrated into My Apps. And we can use any of those connected applications' data as variables throughout the Wized project. For example, if we connect to our Airtable account, we can then access any piece of that Airtable data anywhere inside Wized. Next, let's look at data in. We can bring data into our Wized project from a different application. We can send a request to Airtable to get some data, and then we can access that data request inside Wized. And once our data is in Wized, we can use it anywhere inside the configurator tool. Requests are made through Wized servers so that your front end never exposes sensitive credentials. This means we can use private API keys. For example, if we request data from Notion and then we want to make that request privately, we can. No private API exposure needed. Then we can use that data like variables anywhere inside the Wized project. Next, let's look at actions. Actions are how we make interactive web apps. Actions are how we interact with Webflow's front end. We use actions to display application data on a Webflow site. We use actions to create triggers, like on click, to initiate application requests. And we can also add custom visibility logic to elements on the page. For example, we can display the name of a user and then allow that user to update their name, all through actions. The user takes an action on the page, and Wized sends that request to and from our connected applications. The next category is data out. After a user acts, we can send data from Webflow to any application. We can send requests to applications based on page interactions, form submissions, custom analytics, and more. Update items or create new items in any of our connected applications. Wized supports create, update, and delete requests. For example, after a user updates their name on the Webflow site in their account, we can send a data out request to make that update in Airtable. The user's website edit is going to be mirrored in the user's Airtable record. And the last category is authentication. User auth creates a personalized experience to transform a tool into an app. Create sign up, login, logout, and password reset functionality. Create password-free login systems or authenticate users through Airtable. Customize user experience and application access based on account details. Protect content and create paywalls. We can also integrate Stripe-powered payments to receive money for our application. And custom authentication providers can be integrated through REST APIs. These are the core features of Wized V2. We designed Wized around these application categories to help give non-technical people a better understanding of how web apps work. Our goal is to empower the Webflow community and do more with our projects. To learn a new technical skill, to grow your freelance career, to grow your agency, to create complex products that you never imagined possible, to accept projects that will take your career to the next level. Just like Webflow taught us the principles of HTML and CSS, Wized will teach us the principles of application development. There is a learning curve. We recognize it, just like we would find with Webflow. Imagine this. Webflow without HTML and CSS knowledge is good, really good. We can create a website without deep knowledge of HTML and CSS. But Webflow with HTML and CSS knowledge is epic. We can craft experiences while following industry standards. It is amazing. We know this. The same logic applies to Wized. Wized without web development principles is good. We can create simple applications that communicate with our Webflow site. But Wized with application development principles can literally change your career. We can create complex and custom web applications on top of Webflow without writing any code. We acknowledge this learning curve, and if you go past this learning curve, it will change the type of projects that you can work with. And we're here to help you understand how all of this works. That's why we crafted the Intelligence Center. Intelligence Center. This is our library of educational videos showing web app development principles through Wized. Many of us learn the principles of HTML and CSS through Webflow University and Webflow Designer. We add HTML elements to the page and style them with CSS. We see it working, and now, thanks to Webflow, we understand the core building blocks of the visual web. Very powerful. Wiz will continue this education into web apps. We will learn the principles of web app development through Wized. We will integrate third-party apps, we will make requests, we will render data, and much more. This is now the next level. Wiz will help us understand industry principles through content, lessons, and building real projects. Let's look at our 3 learning paths: beginner, intermediate, and pro. Each path has lessons for web app development principles, and then a build walkthrough to show these principles inside Wized. All of this is free as part of the Intelligence Center. We learn about data types like strings, numbers, booleans, arrays, variables, and objects. We learn about making requests to our applications and then mutating this data. After learning these development topics, we test our new knowledge by building applications that use these principles, real projects. And this is just the start of the Intelligence Center. Over the next 6 months, we will release over 30 clonable Wiz projects so you can continue learning through pro-developed builds. We'll have these projects available for free with video walkthroughs and documentation. You can duplicate any of these projects and start using Wized immediately. We'll build a simple Uber Eats, a simple Craigslist, a simple Airbnb, a simple Open Table, simple LinkedIn, simple Teachable, our own custom client CRM. We'll do trivia, link shortener, inventory ordering system, product history, reporting hours, weather widget, wish list, and there will be many more. We can use these projects as starters for client projects. We can use them for personal projects. We can just use them for a learning playground. The Intelligence Center is going to be a core focus of Wiz. We will grow our education library and our resources to help develop the new wave of technical no-code developers. The primary brand icon for Wized is a brain. Wized has knowledge at the core of our product, and we want to pass that knowledge to you. Thank you so much for joining us in this special announcement. Finsweet will work hard to deliver on these promises. Here's to our new future, filled with web apps and levels of success we never thought possible. Go to wiz.com today to sign up. Wow, that was cool. Great video. Thank you everybody for watching that, for hearing this announcement, for just experiencing this news with us. We're really happy about this. And right now I am joined with some of the Wiz working team. Not all of the Wiz working team, but some of them. So I'm going to introduce each one of them. We're going to bring up the questions that you had during the stream and we will answer them. Okay, first on the top right, we have Jonas. Jonas is the person from the presentation, the product developer, the creator of Wized. Bottom left, we have Rohan. Rohan does a lot of the operations at Finsweet, and he was a great fit for the Wized working team, doing a lot of operational work and organization work and all different types of work inside Wized. Rohan also built Finsweet, a billing application, which has been very valuable to our agency. As our agency grew, we had a lot of billing issues because we had a very unique billing system. So Rohan built an application inside Wized to completely fix that problem. And now this is how we manage our finances. So went from no knowledge of this to now building apps for us. And then bottom right, we have Emmanuel. Emmanuel is going to be leading the Intelligence Center. He is really good at videos. You may have seen some of his SEO videos or productivity videos or the recent lazy grid video. And he has been a little bit quiet publicly because he's been working on Wiz for the past year, planning out the entire Intelligence Center. So welcome to the team. Very excited. You'll be seeing a lot more of these people as we do more content and more videos and more live builds. We're totally for this. So let's get right into this. And I'm going to bring up the first question from Michael Rose, and I'm going to take this one specifically. I want to make sure this is very clear. Michael Rose says, how does this affect or work with Webflow's logic? This is completely separate. There is no integration with logic. We just started playing with logic just like everybody else. And this is not a replacement for logic. I want that to be very clear. We at Finsweet are very excited about logic and we plan to use it to its full extent. Absolutely. This is going to be a core tool for us. Wized, completely different thing. As we start getting into more of the learning, you will understand more of that, but this is not an integration or a competition by any means. So let's make that very clear. And next, let's bring up from Matthias Collado. Is this a no-code backend? Who wants to take this one?
I can take this one. So it's not a no-code backend. It's more of a no-code front-end framework. So it's not a backend that you send data to or store data in. It's basically a tool that enables you to load data into your front end, and it performs the load operations and connects your site with the loaded data.
Very nice. Okay. Let's bring up this next one from Philip Trott. My site has multiple Webflow forms that allows users to send attachments. I wanted to route each form submission to different emails. Zapier couldn't include attachments. Can I do this with Wized?
Yes,
Jonas,
you
you
can.
want to take this again?
Yes, I'm going to take this again. Yeah, so there in Wiz, there's an upload item functionality, basically a request type that you can use to perform those kinds of operations. And it basically can upload data and then serve links to wherever you need them. So probably you know how Airtable works, and Airtable accepts links as attachments. So you can, for example, store that data in Airtable and then use it for use somewhere else, or just trigger your zaps or integrations with those generated links.
Excellent. Okay, Rohan, you can take this next one. How and when can I use this? This is from Veso. When and how can people use Wized? Rohan is on mute. Okay, no problem. I'll take this one while Rohan gets set up again.
All
Or
right.
yeah, go for it, Jonas.
I will go for it because so we are starting our early access program from tomorrow on. And we have basically already a couple of users signed up, a couple of hundred actually, to from our existing Wized user base. They will be preferred users of the new version. And then over the coming weeks, we're going to roll out more and more access slots for early access. But it's starting tomorrow.
Nice. And this, we're just going to continue releasing this out to groups of people. So go to wiz.com, start entering your email in there, and you will be added to the list. It's going to be, pros will get access before some other people. Existing Wiz users get access before some people. And whoever signs up first gets access before other people. So go ahead and fill out that email form. Okay, next question from Tinette, which was answered in the comments by Bailey Fisher, but let's answer that live on the video. How quickly can these connections be made? Specifically, the time that it takes for data to move for each operation.
I'm going to split this question in two parts. First part, connections being made. So in general, Wized connections are instant the moment your page is loaded. So Wized is like a short script that you integrate into your Webflow site. And this basically applies all the configuration that you've made in the Wized configurator. So those are loaded like any other external third-party scripts. And then regarding the data and the speed of the data, that depends heavily on your backend. So, for example, Airtable requests are slower than some custom optimized REST backends, for example, like Xano. Xano is a lot faster than Airtable as a backend.
Let's bring up this next one from Juan Cardona. Emmanuel, this one's for you. This curriculum is no joke. Who came up with it? Alex? Amazing. Well, I'll first answer. It wasn't Alex. Emmanuel, who did this? Who's in charge of this?
Yeah, well, I was mainly in charge of like coming up with the curriculum, and Jonas was, of course, of huge help, and he was giving me a lot of feedback on the way and suggesting coming up with ideas and so on.
Yeah, and I'm really excited about this because I know how some of this stuff works, but I don't know how all of it works. I haven't actually, I haven't immersed myself in this because we need to create this education. So this team has been immersed in this technology for the past year, and now they're all pros. So I think this is going to be a learning opportunity for everybody. A lot of people in the community are looking for this next level of education. So yeah, Emmanuel is bringing that to us. Thank you very much. Okay. Lucas Machado, this is a good one. Lucas asks, will the app now add a layer automatically or make it easier to set up Finsweet attribute solutions to our Webflow builds? Well, it doesn't integrate with attributes yet. I do see a time in the future where there is a deeper integration to Finsweet's attributes. Right now, it's not there. It uses custom attributes to communicate between Webflow and Wized. So we just use our attributes mentality, our attributes way of communicating with the front end, but nothing with the attributes solution. I hope that answers the question, Lucas. If it doesn't, please follow up for the next one. Okay.
And one thing to add
yes.
here, maybe, it's really easy to connect those attributes with Wized. You don't need to learn like a huge variety of attributes. There's only one attribute, and it's always W minus EL. So stands for Wized element in short. And basically everything that you want to have appear in Wized, you just give it this attribute and give it a name, and then it will appear in Wized.
Yeah, it's the great system. Attributes, best way to communicate. Absolutely love it. Okay, let's bring up a question here from Kieran. This is an interesting one. I use Make to send data from one of my clients' Webflow websites to a bunch of their other Webflow websites. Can Wiz do data out and data in to go Webflow to Webflow? I'll say
Generally, I
no to
think
that.
I think generally that's not the use case Wiz is built for. So I think what your like Webflow to Webflow would be backend to backend. There's no front end involved in here except from the site itself. And Wiz is not built for backend operations. Wiz is built as like a front end for the existing live site that you see in your browser, no backend operations. But you can
I actually, oh, sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I actually understood the question differently. So what I understood is that like the person has a Webflow form, and then from that form, he's sending data to another Webflow CMS. If that's the use case, that can be done. Basically, you just connect to the Webflow CMS API. But yeah, backend to backend is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's good to note that that's great answer, great addition to that, Emmanuel. It's also good to know that this isn't really a Webflow CMS tool. You can connect to Webflow CMS, but that's not the use case that we have in Wized. It's more about using Webflow as the front end. Use Webflow CMS for things that are perfect for Webflow CMS, and then Wiz can manage external data sources. Okay, let's bring up this next question for Emmanuel from Caleb. This is in reference to the learning paths. Do the paths lead to each other, or do you just pick one of them?
For now, we just have the beginner path because we're starting out with that. But as we're progressing, we're going to create an intermediate path and also a pro path. So basically, once you're done with the beginner path, it's suggested to start with the intermediate and then with the advanced path. So yeah, they're like the concepts are built on top of each other. So you need to have that trunk based knowledge to progress across the intermediate and more advanced lessons.
Nice. Very cool. There's a lot of videos. Emmanuel, how many videos are estimated?
Let me check quickly. So we have in the
A lot.
beginner learning path 13, if I'm not mistaken. And then in the pro path, we had like for the beginning around 10 more. But that's going to grow. So
Yeah,
yeah, like
absolutely going to grow.
as we see gaps that and topics that haven't been covered, we just decide to make to fill those gaps and create content for that.
And if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that Intelligence Center, please, on wiz.com, there's a resources drop down to the Intelligence Center. There's already some content there. So you can start checking things out, watching videos, reading some content. And now that the V2 is ready for use, we can now start filming the complete series. So we already have content waiting for you. Definitely go and check that out. Also, in addition to that, as part of the Intelligence Center, we have a lot of clonables. We're releasing a lot of clonables. This was mentioned during the presentation, but it's really nice to note that Wiz will come with clonable technology, where we can actually take a project and clone it just like we would find inside Webflow. So really valuable for sharing projects, duplicating projects, having big starting paths for projects. Really nice.
One
Okay, we
thing
have
to
a
add
question. Yes.
One thing to add regarding clonables, they are of course all built with client first and client first version 2. So that will also make it really easy for you to use if you are already using client first in your projects.
Let's bring up one from George Cooper. How does it handle requests which are repeated throughout the application? For example, I have a logout button. Can I apply an attribute to all instances of that button and only build the request once? Who wants to take that?
That's correct. I can take it. You can, with Wized version 2, you can build and fully make use of multiple elements with the same content inside of Webflow. So you can use Webflow, pre-built templates inside of Webflow that you use on every page and only need to connect them with the same attributes over and over. Or basically, you just need to create the element and then just apply the same attribute to all the other instances of this template you want to reuse. And yeah, basically, so you can fully use symbols inside of Webflow to build out like login functionality, for example, on multiple pages.
Let's bring up one from Christian Smith here. Will the Wized community from Discord move to Slack? Well, we have a couple of updates. We're not moving to Slack, I'll tell you that. What we are going on is Zendesk. And Zendesk is going to house our forum, right? It's going to house our the intelligence center, the support, everything is going to Zendesk. This is a lot more official, right? You can only use Slack and Discord for these things for so much time, and then you grow too much and these platforms are no longer good for the use case. So we're starting strong. When we actually launch this to the public, we will be officially live with all things Zendesk. Thing to add to that I missed, team?
Emmanuel, do you want to add something?
No, not to that. I wanted to add something else, but we can do that right after.
Okay, I will maybe add something to that regarding the replacement of Discord. So right now, as of today, we have already launched our intelligence center with the forum included. So there will be a public forum in the future that Wized users will use to get help from other Wized users and to communicate with each other and share common like problems or strategies to tackle certain things with Wized. And we will also be very active in this forum. So we will also answer replies like we did in Discord in this new forum. It won't be a hard cut, so we won't shut off Discord by tomorrow. But there will be the transition where maybe at some point either Discord will be shut off or it will be unmoderated by us.
Excellent. Let's bring up one from Frank. Frank has a question for Jonas. Will Jonas stay involved with Wized? Yes. Jonas will stay involved with Wized. This is a long-term relationship and product development strategy. So absolutely, this team will only grow as we have more users on the platform. Okay, let's bring up one here from Demetrius. Did you use Webflow for Wiz v2? I think v1 was built on Webflow plus Vue. And this is in reference to the UI. When you go in Wiz v2, the UI was this built in Webflow.
So v2 is also built on, so we developed the front end in Webflow and then exported it and built a Vue application around it, Vue 3 application to be precise. In terms of technicalities, that might answer the question.
Excellent. Okay, next, there's so many comments. Geez, I feel like I'm overwhelmed with comments. I guess it's a good thing. Next, let's bring this up from Steven Garcia. The question is, this goes far beyond my current experience level, but I want to know what I can dream about creating because I know the no-code education can get me there. Yeah, absolutely. The no-code education can get you there. Emmanuel is going to be filming videos that teach you these principles and then full projects that you can walk through these principles with. And really, Stephen, the options are really, really long. I would say any application that has an API, you can integrate that with Wized. So that's a good place to start. If there's another application out there that uses REST API, you can now integrate that. So that's a good starting point for you. Anything else to add to that, team?
Yeah, so we built a lot of clonables like uh, like Airbnb, well, a copy of. There's Craigslist, LinkedIn, a marketplace, a job board, and we're also releasing a lot of starter kits that are connecting many backends using REST API. So that is also a good starting point.
And Rohan, I have a follow-up question for you. It's really nice that you had no experience in any of this before you started using Wiz, and now you're building applications for us. Can you give the audience a small preview of what you did to build the Finsweet billing app for us?
So I built the UI in Webflow, and after learning how to use Wized, well, I went about just building it, connected the UI with Airtable, and used Wiz to make the connection to get data in, to send data out. The categories that we have now really helps see the concepts clearly. And by the end of it, I felt so empowered, like, wow, having no knowledge, like technical knowledge of it, but still being able to build an application, that was a very good feeling.
Excellent. Okay. This is a good one from Rashid. Rashid asks, what are the limitations on web apps that we can build with Wizd? Can anybody think of a good limitation that we can share with Rashid?
So there is definitely one limitation, and that is like everything that requires like heavy computation on the front end. So stuff like video editing apps is something you probably wouldn't want to build with Wist. Or like photo editing apps, or just anything that's really front end heavy and needs like a lot of calculations and formulas. There, I would always choose like a traditional development framework. But for everything that's just like a simple web application where you don't like process huge amounts of data, I definitely would go with Wist.
Excellent. Okay, let's bring up one from Federico Leonardo. Could it maybe be used to serve translated content coming from an external database?
Yes, it can.
Great. Now, this is a good point to say where right now Wizd is not for SEO purposes. This is not an application to use if you're looking for more SEO power. The content is rendered on the front end, not server side rendered. So this is not ideal for SEO. This is really for building web apps, which are not supposed to be SEO friendly. So yes, you could do it if SEO is not a problem. But there was actually an earlier question, way earlier, about server side rendering. So Jonas, do you want to talk a little bit about server side rendering?
Yeah, I can share it now. So we plan to build server-side rendering in the future with Wist. It might be coming even sooner than later. And there will be a SEO-friendly solution in the coming future. And it will not only be more SEO-friendly, it will also have a performance boost, probably.
Good question. Just in from Josh Lowe. Let's bring this up. I saw some payment functionalities. Can we build an e-commerce site with Wizd? At least more than Webflow's e-com features.
Yes, you can. E-commerce systems and cards and checkouts are always like a really complex topic, but from the technical side, Wist is capable to do that.
Excellent.
I would like to add something regarding performance. So there have been a lot of concerns regarding performance, and you, Jonas, mentioned that the requests are as fast as the backend that you're connecting to. But there's one more thing to add here. Like, if you don't mask the request, so to say, if you don't add a loader, things appear slow. And basically, even if you just write plain JavaScript, you're gonna see it when the page loads. But if you add a loader on top of that, then you can mask it. So you can build in Webflow like a skeleton UI or just a regular loader. And then while the request is being performed, you can cover an element, and then it fades away basically then when the content is loaded. And this way you have a feeling that everything is really snappy, really fast, and it creates overall a great UX.
Excellent. Next question from Mika Dixon. Will this eventually phase out the Noble sync with Airtable? No, it will not. This is totally different. So the key to understand here is that Noble works with Webflow CMS. That is literally the core feature of Noble, to make a connection between Airtable and Webflow CMS. Wized does not have that primary use case. We are not trying to connect to Webflow CMS. We're trying to bring other data sources on the front end of Webflow. So no, there's actually a developer working on the next version of Noble. We released Noble as a beta. We were not able to find the right developer to work on it. Now we have the right developer working on it. So in 2-3 months, we're going to re-release Noble, and that's a completely different solution than Wized. Okay, great question from Dennis Karg. Let's talk about things that Wized was not designed for. You've already said that backend to backend is not possible. Can you think of more?
That probably goes also in a similar direction as the question before. So yeah, front-end heavy applications, backend to backend is just impossible with Wized because Wized always sits on top of your loaded page, so it can't connect like two databases together. And that's also like where Make or Zapier are really great in. So for that use cases, I would always recommend to go with these kind of platforms and just connect the database or the data source that you use with Wized to Make and Zapier and use them for those kinds of backend cron jobs or synchronizations.
Let's bring up a comment from Sam Harrison. Sam, this is a great question. Can you talk about how Wiz tackles the issue MemberStack had with disabling JavaScript to access data and how Wiz got around this issue? Jonas, let's hear it.
Yes. So the way Wiz works is not so the way web applications restrict content is not by just hiding pages. In a web application, you most likely have sensitive user content that you don't want to display to unauthenticated users. And this user content is probably changing really fast, like either daily or hourly. And every user has like a different view probably. So with integrating authentication sources inside of Wized, those authentication sources make sure, and the access rules you define in the database make sure that only authenticated users with the right permissions can view certain parts or can load certain content parts. So basically, it's embedded in the request that's loading content itself, and it's not embedded on the page content that's served based off the Webflow template of the page. So the Webflow template only contains like default information, and then Wiz is loading and filling this like template with data. And those requests are authenticated by Wiz authentication.
So imagine on your Webflow site, you would have name in brackets. That's all you would show. And then that name in brackets is going to be updated by Wized, but that can't be done if there's no JavaScript. So yes, Sam, it's a different system. It does not have this type of issue. Great. Okay, let's bring up one from work. A good clarification here. Using Wized, I assume you can still build using Webflow for your landing, and then use Wiz functionality for your app to retain SEO where it matters. Yes, absolutely. So, for example, we're building the new Finsweet.com in Webflow, of course, and like 95% of that is totally for SEO. And then we're just going to have one or two static pages that you can log into your Finsweet account and configure some settings for the site. So yes, absolutely, they work together. And that's why, every Wiz project is built in Webflow, because usually you need something like that. Usually you want to combine these things. You don't want to keep them in separate environments. So we do allow you to do that. Anything to add to that, team?
Nothing to add.
Great. Let's bring up this next one from Prairie Rookie. This is a great one for Emmanuel and Rohan because they went through this. How long does it take on average to go from Wiz beginner to Wized expert?
Okay, so it really depends what your background is and what your experience level is. So if you're a JavaScript developer, if you know Vue, React, etc., it's gonna be really quick. Like you can probably learn your way around Wized in a week and become an expert because you'll already know all the concepts, and you just have to find a way to apply this knowledge that you already have. But if you're a full-on beginner, then it can take you anywhere from, I would say, 1 to 3 months. And in a month, you can become like proficient, you can start using it and so on. But then to learn the ins and outs, you will need definitely a little bit more. So how query parameters work, how to use them on the page, cookies, etc. So yeah, it really depends on your background.
Yeah, the great thing is that
I
we will. Sorry, Rohan, continue.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I totally agree with Emmanuel because I think we are in this exact situation. Emmanuel has a lot of knowledge about JavaScript and how things like that work, whereas I don't. So for me, I find working with native integrations, I find that very comfortable. So that'll be the best starting point to connect with Airtable, and I think we have Superbase and more. So work with those and then eventually make your way into connecting with backends that have a REST API, because that takes getting used to, getting familiar with the concepts and terms and whatnot.
Great. Let's move on to a question from Penny. This is an interesting one, I think, good to answer. Penny says, maybe I missed this. Does this get around Webflow's data limits? I'm guessing in
Yes.
reference to the CMS API.
Yes, it does. There are no data limitations with Wized. It's only limited by the database or the data storage service that you use. So if you use Airtable, that's 50,000 records in an Airtable base. If you use a proper database like Xeno or Superbase or Firebase, then there are no limits.
And that is, yeah, that's a really nice benefit. I want to make it double clear. I see a lot of questions around Webflow CMS. Yes, absolutely. Most of your Wiz projects will probably use Webflow CMS naturally and natively. This is not. There's no reason to not use Webflow CMS when Webflow CMS is a great fit. So yes, these two things can work together on most or all projects. Eric Mueller. So, if you're a beginner, do you think this will help you to learn how to code by introducing you to the concepts? Emmanuel, Rohan?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. So basically, if you learn how to do things in Wized, you can just search for the JavaScript syntax to do those things if you're familiar enough with JavaScript. So yeah, like the same principles or the same logic can be also applied when you learn JavaScript. You can also become better at Excel formulas because you just have to search how to do an if-else statement in Excel and so on. So yes, definitely, like learning those concepts will help you on your coding journey.
Yes, and at
Excellent.
the base, it's still the same. So a custom application is manipulating elements on your site, and Wiz is manipulating elements on your site. And what this manipulation does is the same. It's just that Wiz makes it much simpler to do this manipulation, and there are no possible syntax issues, or you don't need to set up a project to do it, and you don't need to be a real programmer to use Wiz. You can just use our intuitive UI.
Good question next from John Osler. John says, what do we need to be aware of from a security standpoint? Jonas, what do we need to be aware of?
So your application is as secure as the rules you set. I think that's in general what can be said regarding this. So you will probably want to use at some point not only Airtable but also like an integration like Xano or Firebase, and those integrations let you access or set specific rules for every endpoint or data you create in there, and you basically then need to make sure that those rules are secure, because Wized cannot override or overcome them. And if your rules are unsecure, the Wized application is unsecure. If your rules are secure in there, then your Wized application is secure.
Excellent. Great answer. Okay, we're going to bring up two more questions to close out this episode. And the first one It's around GDPR. A lot of people are asking about GDPR. Jonas, can you talk about this? What have we done? What's up with GDPR and Wized?
So Wized in the past has always been GDPR compliant. The biggest GDPR compliant is to have servers in Europe and to offer a data processing agreement. And we can definitely provide that. In the future, we will also have a server in Europe and not only in the USA for performance reasons. So that will definitely be something that we can provide. And just keep getting in contact with us. Tell us specific requirements if you have some specific, maybe, specifics to your use case. If there are maybe some custom things to think about, but we are open for that, and we will definitely make it work for you.
You know, I noticed that a lot of these GDPR questions are coming from Germans. So it's really nice that Jonas, you know, I think you really relate to this. This is a really important topic for a lot of people. So Dennis Karg, I know you're out there watching. I hope that was a good answer to that. Okay, and now the last question that we'll cover on this stream. We're going to see if Jonas can share maybe a little bit more about the roadmap. This will be up to what he feels like sharing. So we'll answer the question, what's on Wiz's roadmap besides server-side rendering? Can we share anything?
Yes, sure. So I see three main points right now. The first point is to roll out early access and to basically speak with a lot of you during that access phase, learn about what's great in the new version, what we can improve, and we're going to focus on that first. Next step is server-side rendering. In server-side rendering, we will basically create an option for you to perform server-side rendering with your requests, basically enable you to set all your on-page load requests to be served and pre-rendered by our servers. And then afterwards, we have a couple of things that are planned. And we might also integrate Web3, like deeper into Web3. We might integrate like wallet connection providers like Wallet Connect and MetaMask, and then enable you to also integrate with smart contract APIs like Infura, and then you will have basically access to create a full-on Web3 application with Wized.
Really nice looking forward. That sounds like a great roadmap there. Great. Okay, so we have 1 minute left. I want to thank everybody for coming to this announcement. This is not the end of our Wiz talk. This will continue for many, many months. So what can you do next? You got to go to wiz.com. You have to put your email in. You should come to Finsweet Live next Tuesday. Jonas is going to be doing a live build next Tuesday in Wized V2, and we're going to build something for you and show you how this actually works. So that will be your first official view into a real project. Also, go to the Intelligence Center, watch some of those videos, some of the written content from Emmanuel, and I think that's it. This was a total success. Between everything that happened here, the QA, the watch count, we're super happy that we are able to provide this for you. So thank you very much, everybody. Team, any final words for the people watching here?
What a great day. I'm so happy that it's finally released. And I'm really excited about version 2. I can't wait to see how you all will use it and what you're going to build with it.
Yeah,
Great.
same here. And please give us feedback. Like, go around all of the stuff, go around the marketing site, the intelligence center. And if you find something confusing or unclear, please just let us know so that we can improve it and polish it.
I'm looking forward to the Wiz showcase and the experts panel just to see what comes out in the next few months.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, everybody. Please share this message with a friend, share this announcement with your family, anybody who wants to hear it, because this is big and we're really excited. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll see you soon.